The following review is not made for kids. Viewer discretion is advised. Hello to my subscribers. This is the TFangi coming to you with what will hopefully be a successful review. And I basically looked around at my Transformers collection, and then I looked at the calendar, and I realized the month of December will be halfway through at 12 o'clock noon this Saturday. So I figured since there's only today's the 12th, there's only well, I'm too tired to do the math in my head right now, but we only have a little more than half a month left, and then the year 2023 will be finished, and I still have almost 3 dozen Transformers figures to review. So I figured let's start reviewing now, and I'll probably review the ones whose reviews I know will take the shortest amount of time. I am due to lack of having to do size comparison, and also having to not have too much focus on them because of reasons that we'll see when we get into them. But to start things off, as my voice gives out on me, today we're going to be taking a look at one of the surprising Transformers figures for the Legacy Evolution line. It is Deluxe Class Detritus. So for those of you who don't know who this guy is, I actually wasn't aware of who this guy was until his Legacy figure was announced Detritus, and that's how his name is supposed to be pronounced according to the Transformers Wikipedia. For years, Transformers fans had incorrectly been calling him Detritus. That's because his name looks like it's spelled out like the word detrimental, but apparently no. The correct way to pronounce his name is Detritus, and he's basically a repaint of Generation 1 Hound, his original action figure was, and it was released by Takara Tomy exclusively through eHobby Shop. I can't remember if it was 2005 or 2006 when Detritus was, his original G1 figure was released by eHobby Shop. But the idea behind him is that just like Transformers characters who are double spies, Detritus is both an Autobot and a Decepticon. And turning back to his name on the box again, as you can see, on one side he's got an Autobot logo, and the other side he's got the Decepticon logo. So Detritus is both an Autobot and a Decepticon. And the idea behind him is that Detritus is actually one of the Junkions, just like Wreck-Gar, but after the Transformers come to planet Junkion, unlike Wreck-Gar and most of the other Junkions who just automatically join up with the Autobots thanks to Hot Rod giving the universal greeting of welcome and friendship, Detritus isn't quite sure if the Autobots are on the correct side of the battlefield or if the Decepticons are, and so he basically joins both factions, and similar to Generation 1, Double Dealer, Detritus goes back and forth between both sides of the battlefield. He'll just trying to survive, and which side he ends up on will whichever side ends up winning inning is the one that he'll be on. So basically, yeah, Detritus, you could argue, is somewhat of a coward due to choosing both sides and just wanting to be on whichever side wins because he wants to survive. But I thought I read somewhere that he also traded parts from Planet Junkion to both sides. So basically, you could argue Detritus is a matchup of both Generation 1 Double Dealer and also Generation 1 Swindle. The similarities between Detritus and Swindle come from them both being in US Army Jeeps. But yeah, this was a very pleasant surprise to find. So there's Detritus inside his box. You've got some artwork of his vehicle mode of a mostly sandy desert tan camouflaged US Army Jeep. He's both an Autobot and Decepticon logo. You got a close-up of his face, and there's some artwork of his robot mode, poster image for Legacy Evolution, QR code on the top of the box. Down here to the back, you've got Detritus in his robot mode and his alt mode. Transforms back and forth between both modes in 13 steps. And this is where both being an Autobot and Decepticon comes into play with Detritus. When he's in robot mode, he's an Autobot, and it's kind of hard to tell, but if you look there on what is his left side shoulder, there's an Autobot logo on there. But when he's in Jeep mode, Detritus is a Decepticon. So, when he's a Decepticon, Detritus stays transformed in his vehicle mode, and when he's an Autobot, he stays transformed in robot mode, and only transforms when he's ready to change main sides of the battlefield. So, I guess since the U.S. Army Jeep was originally built to be a vehicle of war, you could say that his vehicle mode being his Decepticon form and his robot mode being his Autobot form is kind of appropriate for Detritus. I just I don't even acknowledge the Fusion gimmick here, but what I will acknowledge is that just like his original Hobby Shop figure, Detritus is a repaint of a Hound figure. But unfortunately, that's not necessarily the case with his new Legacy Evolution Deluxe class figure. Detritus is a repaint, but also a retool of the Transformers War for Cybertron Trilogy Siege Deluxe class Hound figure that was released way back in 2019. And infamously, last year in 2022, a photo was leaked online showing that Hasbro and Takara have planned on retooling Siege Hound and giving him an Earth style Isle Jeep mode, just like they did with all of the other 1984 or average sized Autobots throughout the Earthrise, Kingdom, Legacy, and Studio Series 86 lines. Hound's the only one out of 11 regular sized Autobots who still hasn't been given an Earth mode figure in more recent years. But apparently, all along, Hasbro's plan was for Detritus here to be a sneak peek at Earth Mode Hound, and the image of Earth Mode Hound, which has been confirmed to be released as a Target exclusive in the Transformers Buzzworthy Bumblebee line. Hasbro originally didn't plan on that figure's existence being known until next year in 2024, when it was finally set for release. So Earth Mode Hound is going to be released 2 years after he was accidentally revealed to exist. So that's kind of a shame that Hasbro, oh, after the photo was leaked, that Hasbro didn't try and move up releasing Earth Mode Hound. And they just said no, the photo wasn't. They just said the photo wasn't supposed to be leaked. You weren't supposed to know about Hound yet. We're going to keep to our original schedule of saving him until 2024 for the Transformers 40th anniversary. So I think was a bad decision on Hasbro's part. Was after the leaked photo came out to stick to their original schedule of waiting until to release Earth Mode Hound until 2024. But yeah, that was Hasbro's original plan, was to have Detritus here be a sneak peek at Earth Mode Hound. And since Earth Mode Hound is going to end up being a straight up repaint of Detritus once that figure does finally get released, if the databases of Transformers action figures that are coming out next year in 2024 are correct, and the names of the characters are accurate to the Transformers action figures getting released, Earth Mode Hound will be coming sometime around April of next year in 2024. So right now, since it's December of 2023, we still have 4.5 months to go before Earth Mode Hound gets released. But for now, that's where Detritus is all along. Hasbro wanted Detritus to be the first sneak peek at Earth Mode Hound, and with Transformers fans speculating if they would do the reverse of what happened with Generation 1 Detritus coming after G1 Hound, and reversing that for the Legacy line. I mean, regardless of that, I still think Detritus is an interesting enough character, and now that I've come to know who he is I think it's pretty interesting having a Junkion of all the subgroups of Transformers characters be a potential double agent taking both sides of the battlefield. Then having both his robot mode and vehicle mode be a separate faction. I think it's an interesting take, and the fact that Detritus is a straight up repaint of Hound, I just think that makes him all the more interesting. Hound has always been one of my favorite Transformers characters. I've always enjoyed him. So hopefully it won't be too long before Earth Mode Hound gets released in the Buzzworthy line soon. But for now, at least, the closest thing to Earth Mode Hound that we have is Detritus. So without further delay, let's get him out of his box and take a close look at him in his Autobot/robot mode. Alright, and so here is Detritus out of his box, transformed into his robot mode, which is his Autobot mode. It's kind of hard to tell because there's no outline for it. I wish Hasbro and Takara Tomy would go back to doing either white or silver outlines for the Autobot faction symbol, especially if it's on a colored surface that red would disappear in. But right here on the left side shoulder, here is Detritus's Autobot logo. It's very hard to see since it's red paint on a brown background. But yeah, there it is. When he's in robot mode, Detritus is an Autobot. His Decepticon logo is supposed to be quote unquote hidden when he's transformed into robot mode. But if you turn Detritus around, there it is, plain as day. When you get him transformed into Jeep mode, I think the Autobot logo does become hidden, so he is a fully fledged Decepticon when he's in vehicle mode. Oh, but yeah, in robot mode, he's an Autobot. So yeah, this is Detritus when he's on his good side, when he's in robot mode. Oh, and like I said, all along, from what I've read on the internet, Hasbro originally wanted Detritus to be the teaser image for Earth Mode Hound to let everyone. When Detritus was eventually released in the Legacy Evolution line, Hasbro wanted all the Transformers fans and collectors to go, "Oh, look, it's Earth Mode Hound done as a different character. How long before Earth Mode Hound is going to come, I wonder?" But thanks to the image of Earth Mode Hound being leaked out last year in 2022, a whole 2 years will have it'll be 2 years almost since that image was leaked before Earth Mode Hound finally gets released due to Hasbro wanting to keep to the original schedule of releasing Earth Mode Hound in to be one of the figures released in 2024 for the 40th anniversary of the Transformers franchise. So it is a little discouraging that Hasbro didn't decide to go, now that the photo's been leaked, maybe we should move up the release date of Earth Mode Hound. They just stubbornly instead said, no, the photo wasn't supposed to be leaked. Earth Mode Hound's isn't going to come out until 2024. Boo-hoo that it was leaked out 2 years earlier. Hope you all could pick up on my sarcasm there. Error for the Hasbro executives. But yeah, Detritus, he is a pretty interesting retool of Siege Hound. Speaking of which, first size comparison there is a Legacy Detritus next to Siege Hound, which is Hound when he's in his Cybertronian form. And amazingly, Detritus, along with all of the newly sculpted parts that he has to distinguish himself from Hound, he also has different weapons. One thing I will acknowledge is that the rocket pod, the missile here on top of his shoulder cannon, that part originally came with the Legacy Evolution G2 Toxitron Collection Jazz figure. I can't remember if the other laser gun did or not. But yeah, Detritus's rocket weapon was first used on the Toxitron G2 Jazz figure. So it's interesting that not one of the laser gun weapons that came with the Siege version of Hound were given to Legacy Detritus. And unfortunately, for those of you wondering if Detritus's rocket missile can go into Hound's shoulder cannon, unfortunately, no, because it actually has the 5mm port inside of it, and it attaches via a 5mm egg that's on the front of the shoulder cannon. So it's a little shame that you can't really buy a duplicate copy of Detritus to paint the rocket missile in Hound's colors. Otherwise, you'd have to do the whole gun in Hound's colors. But regardless, I'm really thrilled with how the weapons turned out. My main gripe with the other laser gun that Detritus comes with is that I don't know how you guys can see it in there, but it's actually clear plastic that's been painted bright gold. Why they didn't just do it in in the same reddish brown plastic that they used on Detritus's his arms and pelvis, I honestly can't say, but I think it would have come out better than what it actually is. But speaking of newly sculpted parts, let's first talk about the parts on Detritus and Hound that are the same. The entirety of the arms are the same on both Detritus and Hound. The shoulders, the upper arms, the lower arms, and the fists, those are all the exact same sculpted parts. I believe, Eva, looking at them closely here, the upper part of the legs, the thighs, eyes, and the hip joints, those are the same on Detritus and Hound. And I believe also, the robot mode feet are the same. aim on both Detritus and Hound. But everything else I believe, except the inner torso. The inner torso, which is let's see, moving his arm out of the way. The inner torso, which is here on Hound, it's gray. It's the same tan color as everywhere else on Detritus, but the inner torso is the same sculpted part as well. So all the parts on Hound that are cast in gray plastic were reused on Detritus. Itis, along with the hips and the entirety of the arms. This little square-shaped panel section from the hood of the alt mode, which is where Detritus's Decepticon logo is. That's the same part that was used on Siege Hound as well. But everything else, the weapons, the front, the robot mode chest, est the the pelvis for robot mode, and then the lower legs between the knee joints and the ankle joints. Those are all newly sculpted parts on Detritus. Even the head sculpt is different on here. One noticeable difference is that if you look closely on Hound, right where his ears are, he has intake vents, but Detritus does not. They're just little rectangles where his ears are. So yeah, even though the head sculpts look similar at first glance, and it is an entirely different new head sculpt used here on Detritus. So it's pretty amazing that I want to say roughly a third of two-fifths of Detritus use the same parts as Hound, but 3/5 of the figure are new sculpting in details. But yeah, it's pretty remarkable the new parts that the designers at Hasbro and Dakar Tomy came up with to distinguish an Earth-style Jeep from a Cybertronian one. And so I won't go too much into articulation with Detritus, because if you have Siege Hound or the other versions of figures that are repainted from Siege Hound, such as Generation Select, Cybertron, Defense Mode, Hotshot, or Legacy, the Evolution, IDW, Orion packs, the Amazon exclusive from the 2-pack. The articulation's the same on all these molds, regardless of the newly sculpted parts. Heads on swivel joints, so it can rotate left and right. Arms can rotate left and right at the shoulder. Other swivel joint in the bicep. Hinged elbows. Swivel joints in the wrists. Swivel joint in the waist. Legs can go out that far. They can go forward this far, backward that far. Swivel joints in the thighs, hinged knees, and of course ankle rockers. So I named off the joints, but I didn't really show them off in their entirety. But I'm just really thrilled that to have this figure in hand. Even if it isn't Hound and it's a different character, I still think Detritus is a pretty interesting Transformers character. And one of the reasons why I was excited to get him is because, and I've said this with quite a few of the Transformers action figures that have been released in the Legacy Evolution line, especially those in the deluxe class size. I don't know how many characters I've said it for already, but I'm going to say it again here with Detritus. One of the reasons why I was glad to get this figure and add it to my collection is because this has become the first and only action figure of Detritus that I have in my Transformers collection. So yeah, I'm really thrilled to have yet another new Transformers character I didn't have before the Legacy Evolution line in my Transformers collection. So now that we've looked at Detritus in his robot mode long enough, let's get him transformed into his Jeep mode, which is his Decepticon mode, and we will wrap up the review. Alright, and so here's Detritus transformed into his vehicle mode of an Earth-style military Jeep done in desert tan and camouflage and or desert tan color, I should say. And I really enjoy all the new sculpted parts that allow the vehicle mode that was used on Siege Hound, and how it's done in an Earth-style Jeep. I love the new tires that they look more like Earth-style tires than Cybertronian ones. They could have just left the same wheels over on Hound Hound for Detritus like they did with the Earthrise versions of Ironhide and Ratchet when they were retooled from their Siege figures. But I'm glad that Hasbro and Takara Tomy did, and they went the extra mile with new Earth-style wheels here for Detritus. Here's his Decepticon logo. So in Jeep mode, he's a Decepticon on through and through. His Autobot logo, well, if you look underneath at it from an angle, the Autobot logo is technically still visible. It's basically a case just like his Decepticon logo in robot mode, where if you don't try and look for it, you won't see it. Yet, even more so here in Jeep mode. Oh, but yeah, he is, since he's not out of friendly Jeep, if he does look somewhat menacing with the brown part interior area and the two missiles hanging off the back of him, which have gold paint on them. But yeah, overall, I'm really thrilled with how Detritus came out, and it is much more fun, and it is much easier to transform Detritus than it is to transform the Siege version of Hound. There's the extra step of the Cybertronian canopy here, and this middle piece here on the back, having to egg together and peg in place to hold the vehicle mode together. That's one thing I've always feared of, is that these two little plastic barge forming the, I guess you'd call it the roll cage for Hounds, for Siege Hound's vehicle mode. I'm always afraid of those two pieces snapping off every time I transform this figure. So Earthrise I just said Earth. I just called him Earthrise because that's what the Hound release of this figure everyone thought was going to end up coming in. But Legacy Detritus got it correct that time. Like I said, he's a very fantastic looking Jeep. It is definitely an Earth style Jeep, especially compared to Siege Hound. So fingers crossed that the Earth mode Hound repaint of Detritus gets released East really soon. I was kind of hoping Hasbro would surprise everyone and announce that buzzworthy Earth mode Hound would be released before Christmas, before the year 2023 came to an end, but it appears that's not the case. But for now, at least, I do not regret getting Detritus and Itis, because he's still a fun action figure, and he's one of the more unique Transformers characters, because I could actually look at the Transformers characters who are double agents and double spies. They're actually very few in number, so it's nice to have Detritus join that rare exclusive group of Transformers characters who decide to go with both the Autobot and Decepticon factions just to see who wins the war. But yeah, this has been my look at Transformers Legacy Evolution Deluxe Class Detritus. So for the proverbial question, do I recommend getting Detritus and adding him to your Transformers collection? Absolutely. Even if eventually after Earth Mode Hound gets released, I am still going to keep Detritus in my Transformers collection. Even compared to the other Junkions, Detritus is unique because I don't think any of the other Junkions have taken an Earth-style Jeep for a vehicle mode. So even though he's from a group of Transformers where there's more than one individual, he is unique enough that he can be distinguished from other Transformers characters once you find out who he is. But yeah, this has been Transformers Legacy Evolution Detritus. I highly recommend you get the figure if you can. And until next time, you guys, stay safe, stay healthy, and until next time, transform and roll out. Goodbye, everyone.